Hey everyone, I hope you're doing well. Going to do something different today. So I want to go in a slightly different direction, if you will. So I really want to talk about this Perfect Spirit Healing Collective. This is the group that I essentially channel during my healing sessions and where I get a lot of insights. So I'll get into this collective in a moment, but I want to share a little bit of backstory of how we got to this point, if you will. And I know I've shared this information before. I just think it's important to share this again to remind you. So when I was 6 years old, I was run over by a van that created lots of head trauma, compound fracture of the left elbow, a hip fracture. I nearly bled out, was in really bad shape. But what I remember that night after surgery was I remember my tubes, my life support being removed. I mean, it was pretty aggressive feeling. Then when I opened my eyes to see what was going on, I just saw these three beings on each side of me removing my tubes. Then that's all I remember. Bright light, three beings, blank. Then in the morning, I distinctly remember my mom saying, "Why'd you remove your tubes? Why'd you remove your life support?" I had no answer for her. And she didn't step back and say, how could this 6-year-old child have removed all this stuff? Because in her world, there was nothing else outside of her, that it had to be me. And I had no answer. I didn't know what I experienced. So that memory faded away. Then my mom said something rather interesting to me later in life when we were talking about the accident and things. She mentioned that there's this girl that was visiting me every day from the neighborhood. But one day she just disappeared. I guess she moved away. I have zero memory of meeting this little girl. I have no idea who she was, what her impact was, nothing. So I thought it was kind of odd what that was all about. And I really don't get much clarity on that today as well. It just seems like it was instilling some information. That's the best I can come up with it. So throughout my life, I had lots and lots of health issues. Being bipolar in my 20s, nearly killing myself twice, psoriasis on a third of my body, chronic migraines that would throw me into the emergency room at least once a quarter for IV medicines. Then eventually at age 37, I lost the ability to walk from multiple sclerosis. So this was my life. I had all these health ailments, all these health challenges. But then something shifted. I guess it was back in 2010. Yeah, it seems about right. About 2010, I was pretty much a couch potato. I had all these ailments with multiple sclerosis, bipolar, migraines, all this stuff. So I was a couch potato. I used to watch a lot of TV, used to watch ghost hunting shows. Like, well, that's interesting. It's entertaining. But I didn't know if it was real or fake. But then I saw a tweet from a ghost hunter. It's like, well, I can go to that. I can suit up, if you will, my cooling pack, my cane, everything I needed for MS to go for an hour. But it was kind of far away, so I had to get a hotel room nearby. I know I could only stay for a little bit, but I had experiences there I could not explain, like flashlights going on and off by themselves. Somebody sitting next to me that I could not see, and when they sat next to me, I just felt this overwhelming sense of dread come over me from that. Then I left the event. I thought that was really curious. What did I experience? So I started to do some investigation. I started to research. But my research was very slow. My eyesight wasn't great from the MS. I could read maybe a chapter or two, then I had to stop because the migraines would start. So one day I read about meditation. I'm like, ah. And one of the benefits of meditation was inner peace. I'm like, I need inner peace. I was so stressed out, so overwhelmed with life, and my health was in decline. So I really needed inner peace. So that was my focus. So I began a meditation practice, but I had no clue what I was doing because there was really no instructions in the book. I didn't do any research on it. I just had meditation equals inner peace. I need to do that. Let's go do that. So I just sat quietly. But when you sit quietly, like I had the image of like the Zen monks, you sit quietly, you close your eyes. to me, that was meditation. So when I sat there quietly, closed my eyes, I thought that meditation means you stop thinking. Then I realized, wait a second. Now, let me back up there. I got to back up. All right, so I had this image, of a Zen monk, eyes closed, being quiet. So that was my practice. So when I thought you went into meditation, the mind would stop thinking. So my mind would start thinking. I'd be like, stop thinking, mind thinking, stop thinking. So this was going on for about a week, this little game that I was playing. But I was only sitting for 5 minutes a day. That was my practice of sitting still for 5 minutes, chasing my mind with thoughts. Mind thinking, stop thinking, mind thinking, stop thinking. Then it like dawned on me one day, wait a second. I have thoughts, but I'm not my thoughts. I'm just chasing my thoughts. I realized that I'm the observer, the witness of thoughts in that moment. So then it dawned on me like, okay, I'm not my thoughts. If I'm not my thoughts, then who am I? So I was sitting with that question now. So now when the mind would start thinking, I wouldn't say stop thinking. I would go back to my feet. Where are my feet? Where are my hands? I just bring myself back into this moment. So then I was sitting for 5 minutes twice a day with this question. If I'm not my thoughts, who am I? That was my intention. Then one day I heard a voice say perfect spirit. I'm like, that's it. I'm perfect spirit. I am not this damaged body and mind. I'm spirit. Then all I can explain is that I simply knew that all was well and all sense of fear about my health was simply gone. Then I just followed this intuitive voice because the mind grew quiet. I just following this intuitive voice to recover the body and mind, to do this, to do that. This intuitive voice was kind of loud, if you will. It's like, do yoga, more water, less TV, less meat. And just give me these instructions, do this, with no explanations. Like one day when it says do yoga, my mind would say, you can't do yoga, your balance is horrible, you're not flexible, and it would just go with all these stories. But I simply trusted that voice. I had a deep knowing to go trust that voice. Whatever that voice was, I trusted it, do yoga. So I signed up for yoga. My balance was horrible when I began, but 6 months later, no cane. And I was starting to taper off my medicine then. I just was following these instructions. And within about 14 to 16 months of after hearing that perfect spirit voice, all my health issues were gone after 14, 16 months. So I wasn't seeing my doctors. I didn't get to my doctors for their tips on how to go about getting off my medicine, all this stuff. I only talked to one doctor about how do I get off this, what was it that was really addictive, Klonopin, benzodiazepine. It was very addictive. I had a hard time getting off the benzos. So I asked the doctor how to do this. He gave me tips to do that, so that got me off the benzos. But I was tapering off this medicine very slowly. But I kept my last neurologist appointment. Like I saw my rheumatologist once to help me with that medicine, get off of that. Then I just kept my last neurologist appointment. And I was usually seeing 6 doctors frequently. Maybe every 2 or 3 months I would see them, some once a month, some every few weeks. I was just seeing a lot of doctors. My healthcare expenses were off the roof. I was taking so many pills, medicine. I mean, I was a mess. So I got off all this medicine, no ailments, no nothing. The last neurologist appointment I saw, he was baffled. He was confused. He's like, your scans are clean. Your blood work is better than mine. I'm examining you. All I see is a non-specific hand tremor that everyone has. Then he started questioning me for 45 minutes what I did. He couldn't quantify it. Basically, I stopped believing the mind and I started to listen to my inner voice, the intuitive voice, and everything turned around. So this brings us up to today, or pretty close to today. So I start to do, after I healed myself, I wrote my first book, then I started to do meetups, and I started to do these healing circles and some other things. But then I ran into a Peruvian shaman They taught me how to bring in the doctors from the spiritual realms. I met someone else that brought me in touch with Melchizedek. And then after these events, then when I did these healing events, all these beings start to show up. So last week when I did my healing circle, and there's one next week in the Vibrant Soul Society, I do them roughly every 2 weeks in there. And tonight is a soul session where we go beyond the head trash into the soul. So doing that tonight. So what I'm discovering now is that I really need to tap into what I call the Perfect Spirit Healing Collective. Perfect Spirit, because I don't know what that inner voice was. It was just my intuition, who it was. I'm not quite sure. But last week when I did the healing circle, I had all these beings come forward, 50 plus beings from angels. The two primary doctors that come through were Galen and Paracelsus. I even had Sai Baba show up. It's like, who's this in the collective here that I see? It's an Indian guru. Who is this? And I got the name Sai Baba. Interesting. He never showed up before, but he was here to open up the third eye and chakra. He was helping those aspects along with the doctor. So it's a really weird, interesting world, I guess you could say, with this collective. So now when I close my eyes, basically when I close my eyes and get into this space, I just feel like my head starts buzzing and I get very hot. So I'm just going to get quiet here. I might cut this and just tell you how long I sat there to bring them forward and see if they want to say anything today. But I think that's what I'm going to do from now on, is just bring forward the collective. Instead of me just creating a video based on the information that I understand and regurgitating it back to you in the prior videos, because always in my healing circles, I never tried to dictate. I close my eyes and I lead the group through a healing process, and all these beings come forward. So now I'm just going to try to bring them forward and see if they want to talk, if you will. So let me go quiet and just see what happens. Hmm. Hmm. Just relax. Let go of all this busyness, all this mental interference. It's making life more difficult than it needs to be. So we just want to relax. To realize everything is coming to you, but your mental interference is simply blocking it. This is all those beliefs, all those stories that you are taking as your truth. They are not your truth. They're just opinions, reflections. We can let all those go away and just be. And this begins by relaxing, by keeping yourself in this moment where everything is right here and now. And the mental interference makes you a time traveler, dwelling into the past, dwelling into the future. But we assure you, everything is right here, right now. There's no past, there's no future, there's only this moment. So we want to relax into this moment, be fully present, fully here, not allowing the mind to dictate how things should be with all these demands, expectations. We simply want them to go. But the mind insists that it has to be complicated. This too is mental interference. It's not complicated. Be fully here in this moment. Then act from this moment. What is that thing that feels right to you, that brings you the greatest joy in this moment? Do that. Beware of the mental distractions. They do not have your best interest in mind. They want to keep you busy chasing, chasing, chasing. That is not helpful. So yes, it is best to call us the Perfect Spirit Healing Collective, where there are several of us here jumping in as needed. Galen pretty much leads the healing circles. Paracelsus comes through at times for mindset and stress and relaxation. And Usaba will come through with this deep wisdom. You may know him from the Lyrian system. But we're just reminding you that it's not important the individual identities that are speaking to you. We are a collective. We are one with the one, just as you are. But the mind creates all this mental interference, all this separation, all these difficulties, complexities, that I don't have this ability. That's mental interference. You do have this ability. You are one with the one. The best thing you can do for yourself is just relax. Get in touch with who you really are. That essence within you. The one who never changes. The one who always exists, regardless of the body. You exist. You are here. So be here. Notice how the mind is once again distracting. This is not a complicated process. So look for the simplicity in this moment. What is going to bring you the greatest joy in this moment? And do that. Yes, there may be things that you need to do that are on the unpleasant side, you could say. But we do them because they are necessary for survival of life, of this being, of this body. So we have to eat, we have to feed ourselves, we have to shower, we have to bathe. These may not be the greatest joy, but it is necessary to eat, to sleep, to eliminate waste. It is part of being a human. But we don't want to get lost in our humanity. We want to remember our anchor, our home as spirit, and always seek out spirit for guidance, for insights. For you are one with the one. All the information is there. You just simply need to relax, to be fully here. Then get quiet, get still. See what arises within you that feels right. Don't try to logic it out. Some of these things that feel right make no sense to the mind. So just do those things that feel right to you. They felt like they've left, so bid them well. That was interesting. So I'm a little disoriented coming back here. We just want to relax. That's the big thing I remember, is just to relax. All right, well, take good care of yourself. I will see you inside the Vibrant Soul Society. And I do my soul sessions there tonight. The healing circle next week. And the healing circles are frequent. The soul sessions are kind of frequent as well. And we're in there a few times a week live, giving soul messages. But just relax, enjoy the peace that is here. And I wish you well.